Dear listeners, we're back with a new story. Get ready for cheating, revenge, and wild relationship drama. The anticipation of our family vacation to Spain had filled our home with an infectious excitement. For weeks, we had talked about the places we would visit, the foods we would try, and the moments we would cherish. But just days before our departure, that excitement was eclipsed by an unexpected illness that swept through me like a dark cloud. It began as a slight tickle in my throat, but by the time I woke up that Friday morning, I felt like a ghost of myself. My body ached, and the fever turned my thoughts into a jumbled mess. I stumbled into the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, but it did little to shake the heaviness that clung to me. "Are you okay?" Rachel's voice floated in from the kitchen, where she was packing our bags. The concern in her tone made my heart ache even more. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice hoarse. "I feel terrible." She appeared in the doorway, worry etched on her face. "You should see a doctor. We can't have you sick for the trip." I shook my head, trying to muster a smile. "It's probably just a 24-hour bug. I'll be fine by Monday, I promise." But as the hours dragged on, I began to doubt my own words. The fever spiked, leaving me shivering one moment and drenched in sweat the next. I could hear Rachel moving around, packing the last-minute items and trying to keep the kids entertained, but I felt disconnected from it all, as if I were watching a movie through a foggy glass. When the kids came in, their faces bright with excitement, I tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness washed over me. "Hey, buddy." I called to our son, Sam, forcing a grin. "Are you ready for Spain?" Sam nodded vigorously. "I can't wait to see the beach. And I want to eat all the ice cream." "Yeah, me too," I replied, but the thrill in my voice didn't match the sinking feeling in my stomach. Rachel stepped forward, a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Sweetheart, why don't you lie back down? You need to rest." "Rachel, I'm fine," I insisted, but the defiance in my voice faded as I felt another wave of nausea wash over me. She sighed, a mix of frustration and concern in her eyes. "You're not fine. You're burning up. If you're still sick by Monday, we'll have to rethink this trip." I felt a knot tighten in my chest. "You can't be serious. The kids have been looking forward to this for months. You can't cancel the whole vacation just because I'm a little under the weather." "It's not just a little under the weather, and you know it," she shot back, her voice rising. "I can't let you ruin this for the kids. I've already told Mia she could come with us if you can't make it. We'll still go, and I'll bring you back all the souvenirs." My heart sank at the thought of her taking our friend Mia along instead of me. "Mia?" I echoed incredulously. "You're really considering taking her?" "Just like that, only if you're still sick." Rachel snapped. "I didn't plan this trip alone. We all want to go, and it's not fair for the kids to miss out because you're too stubborn to admit you're sick." Her words stung, igniting a simmering anger within me. "I'm not stubborn. I just don't want to be the reason everyone else misses out on an amazing trip." Rachel threw her hands up in exasperation. "You're acting like you're on your deathbed. She paused, taking a breath to collect herself. "Just promise me you'll take care of yourself. If you're not better by Monday, I'll have to do what's best for the kids." As I lay back down, the ceiling fan whirring above me, I felt a rush of guilt and anger. How had it come to this? I felt a wave of helplessness wash over me, unable to grasp the reality that the trip I had planned and looked forward to was slipping through my fingers. The next few days crawled by in a haze. I tried to push myself to recover, but my body resisted, feeling heavier with every passing hour. Each time I heard Rachel laugh with the kids, I felt a stab of guilt, as if I were the one stealing their joy. On Sunday night, I overheard Rachel talking to Mia on the phone. "Yeah, if he's not better, I think I'm going to take you with us," she said, her voice laced with excitement. "It'll be fun. The kids love you." I closed my eyes, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. How could she even think of going without me? Finally, Monday arrived. I dragged myself out of bed, hoping that I might feel well enough to join them. But as I stepped into the kitchen, Rachel looked at me, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. "How do you feel?" she asked, her tone softening. I think I can manage," I replied hesitantly, but the truth was, I still felt terrible. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But if you're not up for it, you need to promise me you'll let me know." I nodded, but a wave of dread washed over me. As the clock ticked closer to their departure, I couldn't shake the feeling that this illness had altered something fundamental between us. I was losing control over everything I had once held dear, and the fear of what lay ahead hung heavy in the air. As they packed their bags and I lay back down, I wondered if my illness had been a prelude to something even more devastating. In the pit of my stomach, I sensed that this vacation would change everything. After Rachel and the kids left for Spain, the silence in the house felt suffocating. I had spent the first day wallowing in my illness, alternating between sleeping and staring at the walls, each tick of the clock amplifying my loneliness. I should have been excited for their adventures, but instead, I felt a hollow ache in my chest that wouldn't dissipate. The next morning, I sat up in bed, determined to shake off this oppressive feeling. I grabbed my phone, hoping to distract myself with social media or catch up on messages. I opened our family group chat, scrolling through the cheerful updates from Rachel, filled with pictures of the kids laughing on the beach, their faces alight with joy. A pit formed in my stomach. They were having a wonderful time without me. I needed to see something familiar, so I navigated to my direct messages, but my eyes caught a notification from Rachel's phone. It was a message from Tom, the old friend I had never fully trusted. He and Rachel had shared a history long before I entered the picture, one that lingered like an uninvited guest at a dinner party. Curiosity twisted my stomach as I tapped the notification. I didn't intend to invade her privacy, but the temptation was too great. The message read, "Can't believe you're in Spain without me. Let's catch up soon." I missed those late-night talks. A wave of nausea washed over me. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the conversation, each message peeling back layers of doubt. "It's so hard being away from you. I wish we could be together," read one. Another said, "I never stopped thinking about what we had. What the hell?" I whispered, my heart racing. It felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal. They hadn't just talked, there was an intimacy in their words that left me feeling sick. I stumbled out of bed, needing to ground myself. I could hear the faint sounds of laughter from the living room where the kids had been playing. I glanced at my reflection in the hallway mirror, eyes wide and frantic, cheeks pale. I called Rachel, my heart pounding as the phone rang. "Hey, babe," she answered, her voice cheerful and bright, too bright for the storm brewing in my heart. "Hi. How's it going?" I forced the words out, trying to keep my tone steady. "Great. The kids are having a blast at the beach. It's beautiful here. You really should have come." I swallowed hard, biting back my anger. I saw the messages from Tom. "You didn't mention you were chatting with him." There was a pause on the other end, and I could almost hear her processing my words. "Oh, that. He just reached out. It's harmless. We're just friends." Harmless? Rachel, you can't tell me that those messages are harmless. They're filled with feelings. "Feelings?" she echoed, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her voice. "You're reading too much into it. We've known each other for years, and yes, we have a history. But I'm married to you now, yet you didn't tell me about him reaching out. Why keep it a secret?" I pressed, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Because it's not a big deal. I didn't want to worry you, especially with everything going on." Her tone was rising, defensive and hurt. "Not a big deal?" I shot back, pacing the room. "This feels like more than just friendship, Rachel. Those messages, they're crossing a line. Look, I need to go. The kids are calling me," she said, her voice wavering slightly. "We'll talk when I get back." "I love you." "Yeah, love you too," I replied, the words feeling hollow. I ended the call, staring blankly at the wall. How had it come to this? I felt like I was standing on the precipice of something terrible, a chasm of betrayal stretching before me. I sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands, fighting back tears. The laughter of my children echoed from the other room, but it felt distant, like a memory I could no longer grasp. As the days passed, I found myself trapped in a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. I tried to focus on the kids' needs, but every time I caught a glimpse of Rachel's phone on the table, my heart raced with trepidation. The messages haunted me, casting shadows over our life together. By the third day, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront Rachel again. I had to know if this was just a fleeting moment of nostalgia or something deeper. I dialed her number, anxiety swirling in my stomach. "Hey, what's up?" she answered, her voice bright but with an underlying hint of tension. "Can we talk about Tom again?" I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. "Can't it wait?" "We're about to go out for dinner," she replied, a slight edge creeping into her voice. "No, it can't wait. I need you to be honest with me, Rachel. Are you still in love with him?" There was a long silence, and my heart pounded in my chest. "Of course not. I love you. You're my family," she finally replied, but her voice lacked the conviction I desperately wanted to hear. "I don't know if I can believe that anymore," I admitted, my voice cracking. "This whole situation feels wrong, and I can't shake this feeling of betrayal. You're texting him like you're confiding in him, something you should be sharing with me. Please, just let it go for now," she said, her voice pleading. "I'll be home soon, and we can talk about it when I'm back." I felt a mixture of anger and despair. How can I let it go? I'm left here, feeling abandoned and alone while you're off reconnecting with someone who has history with you. Max and Lily need me now, and you need to trust me. "I'll prove it when I get back, I promise," she said, desperation seeping into her tone. "Prove it?" I repeated incredulously. "How can you prove something that feels broken? It's not just about trust anymore, it's about everything you've kept hidden. Please, don't do this now." "I don't want to fight," Rachel said, her voice thick with frustration. "I just want the truth." I yelled, the tension spilling over. "I can't talk about this right now," she shot back, and then there was silence. I hung up, my heart heavy with the weight of unresolved issues. As the sun began to set outside, I sat in the dim light, staring blankly at the walls. The laughter of my children echoed through the house, but it felt like a different world, one that I was slowly being pushed out of. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing with unanswered questions and a growing sense of betrayal. How could Rachel say she loved me while keeping such a significant part of her life hidden? With every message I had read, every whispered conversation I had overheard, the reality of our relationship felt like it was crumbling around me. I closed my eyes, praying for clarity, but all I found was the gnawing dread that this vacation had unleashed a darkness I never wanted to confront. Rachel returned from Spain with the bright energy of vacation still swirling around her, but my heart sank as I watched her walk through the door. It had only been a week, but it felt like an eternity had passed, filled with uncertainty and betrayal. I had hoped that time apart would help me gain perspective, but instead, it deepened the chasm between us. "Hey, you," she exclaimed, her arms wide as if to envelop me in a hug. I stepped back, the gesture feeling too familiar, too casual given the tension that had settled in our relationship. "Hey," I replied, my voice flat. "How was the trip?" "Wonderful. The kids loved every minute," she said, her eyes sparkling with memories. "We should look at the photos together." I nodded, forcing a smile as I watched her bustle about the living room, unpacking bags and chatting about the highlights of their vacation. But behind her animated recounting, a heaviness settled in my chest. The excitement of her return was eclipsed by the unresolved questions lurking in the back of my mind. Just then, the doorbell rang, jolting me from my thoughts. I opened the door to find two detectives standing on our porch, their expressions serious and stern. "Are you Mr. Collins?" one of them asked, his badge gleaming under the afternoon sun. Yes, that's me, I replied, confusion settling in. What's going on? We need to speak with you and your wife about a matter concerning your friend, Tom, the second detective said, his voice firm yet gentle. Tom? Rachel asked, emerging from the kitchen. Her expression shifted instantly from joy to concern as she approached the door. What happened? Can we come inside? The first detective asked, his gaze darting between us. Sure, of course, I said, stepping aside. Rachel followed closely behind, her eyes wide with apprehension. Once inside, the detectives took a seat on the couch, and I could feel the tension in the air thickening. I sat across from them, glancing at Rachel, who looked pale. Tom was found dead last night in a suspicious situation, the first detective began, his tone heavy. We're investigating the circumstances surrounding his death, and we need to ask you both some questions. What do you mean, suspicious? I asked, my voice trembling. It's still under investigation, but we found evidence that suggests foul play, the second detective continued. We understand that you and Mr. Avery had a past relationship, Mrs. Collins. Rachel's face drained of color. We were friends, yes. But I haven't spoken to him in a while, just a few messages during the trip. Messages? I interjected, my pulse quickening. What kind of messages? Rachel shot me a glare, her panic palpable. Not what you think. Just catching up, that's all. Did you see him while you were in Spain? The first detective pressed, ignoring the tension between us. No. I swear. I didn't even know he was there until now, she exclaimed, her voice rising in urgency. Can anyone confirm your whereabouts during the trip? The detective asked, taking notes. Of course. I was with the kids the whole time, she stammered, her eyes darting toward me for support. Okay, we just need to verify everything, the second detective said, his tone softening slightly. We'll follow up on that. But Mr. Collins, you mentioned in your statement that you had concerns about your wife's communications with Mr. Avery. Yes, I found messages that were intimate, I admitted, my voice thick with emotion. I didn't know about their history until recently. I thought it was just a friendship. Rachel's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. I can't believe you're bringing that up now. This is about Tom, not us. I'm just trying to understand, Rachel. If he was murdered, and you were talking to him. Enough, she snapped, her frustration boiling over. I'm not involved in any of this. You know I would never hurt anyone. I can't believe you would even think that. The detectives exchanged glances, clearly aware of the rising tension. We're not accusing anyone, the first detective said. We just need to gather information. Please, just answer our questions honestly. I leaned back against the couch, feeling overwhelmed. What else do you want to know? Did Tom ever mention feeling threatened or worried about anyone? The second detective asked, focusing on Rachel. No. He didn't mention anything like that, Rachel replied, shaking her head, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. He was just going through a tough time. He talked about needing to reconnect with friends, but he never said anything alarming. What about you, Mr. Collins? The first detective asked. Did Tom ever reach out to you? No, he hadn't, I said, trying to remember if I had seen any signs of trouble. But I did feel uneasy about their friendship. The detectives nodded, taking notes as they continued their questioning. As they probed deeper, my frustration mounted. I felt trapped between my loyalty to Rachel and the growing evidence that suggested she was withholding the truth. When the detectives finally left, I felt drained. Rachel stood by the window, staring out at the fading sunlight. What did they mean by suspicious circumstances? I asked, breaking the silence. She turned to me, her eyes filled with hurt and fear. I don't know, but it can't be good. Tom was my friend, I didn't want anything bad to happen to him. Then why didn't you tell me about the messages before? I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. This doesn't make sense. You knew I was uncomfortable with your friendship with him. I was going to tell you. I didn't think it was important at the time, she shot back, her frustration evident. Not important? I echoed incredulously. It feels like the entire foundation of our relationship is built on secrets and lies. If you were really innocent, why not just come clean? Because I didn't want to hurt you, she shouted, tears pooling in her eyes. I didn't want you to think I was unfaithful. I love you, but Tom, he's just someone I used to know. This was never supposed to be a big deal, then why does it feel like everything's falling apart? I retorted, the anguish boiling over. She took a deep breath, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I don't know. I thought I could handle this, but now, I don't know what to do. I feel trapped. The room fell silent, the weight of our unresolved issues hanging heavily between us. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but my heart was too heavy with doubt. The more we spoke, the more I felt the distance growing, like a chasm we couldn't bridge. That night, as I lay in bed, I replayed the events of the day over and over in my mind. The detective's questions, Rachel's evasions, and the unshakable feeling that there was more beneath the surface than either of us was willing to admit. I turned to her, finding her sleeping beside me, but I couldn't find solace in her presence. Instead, I felt a sense of dread settling in my chest. What had Tom been involved in, and why had it led to his death? As the darkness enveloped me, I realized that whatever lay ahead would force us to confront the hidden truths that had begun to unravel our lives. I was no longer just worried about Tom's death, I was terrified of what it might reveal about us. The days blurred into one another after the detectives left, an endless cycle of uncertainty and tension. I felt like a stranger in my own home, surrounded by the echoes of laughter from my children, yet haunted by the reality of Rachel's betrayal and Tom's suspicious death. Each conversation we had was filled with unspoken words and resentments, and the air between us was thick with doubt. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when I found myself sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the TV. The kids were at a friend's house, giving us a rare moment of solitude. Rachel was in the kitchen, the sound of pots clanging and water running a dull backdrop to the turmoil in my mind. I could feel the weight of our unresolved issues pressing down on me, and I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. Rachel, I called out, my voice steady but tinged with trepidation. She peeked around the corner, a towel in her hand. Yeah, we need to talk, I said, bracing myself for the conversation that had been looming over us like a storm cloud. About what? She asked, her tone cautious. About us. This isn't working. I could feel my heart racing, the words spilling out before I could stop them. What do you mean? Her brow furrowed, and I could see the tension radiating from her. We're living in this lie. Everything feels off, and I can't keep pretending that things are okay. I stood up, feeling the gravity of the situation bearing down on me. We're not the same people we were before. After Tom's death and your messages, I feel like I don't know who you are anymore. Rachel's face fell, and I could see the pain etched across her features. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to hurt you? I've been trying to explain myself, but you keep shutting me down. I just want the truth, I replied, my voice rising with frustration. If you were just friends, why didn't you come to me when he reached out? Why keep it a secret? It feels like you were hiding something, and now he's dead. Because I didn't want to hurt you, she shouted back, tears streaming down her cheeks. I thought it would be better to leave the past in the past. Tom was just a friend who wanted to reconnect. I swear I didn't know anything would happen. Would you have told me if he hadn't died? I asked, my voice shaking. Would you have ever come clean about those messages? It feels like everything you said was a lie. Rachel looked away, her shoulders trembling. I don't know. I just didn't want to complicate things. I thought we were okay, and I was trying to keep the peace for the kids' sake. But what about our peace? I pressed. What about us? If we're not honest with each other, how can we move forward? She took a deep breath, looking as if she were trying to gather her thoughts. I never wanted it to get to this point. But now, Now everything feels broken, and I don't know how to fix it. Maybe we can't fix it, I said, my heart aching at the realization. Maybe we need to consider separating for a while. I can't keep living like this, constantly questioning your loyalty and love. Her eyes widened in shock. You can't be serious. You want to throw everything away? Our family, our life together. I don't want to, but I think we need space to figure this out, I replied, the pain in my chest intensifying. We can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. I need to know if you still love me or if you're still holding on to Tom in some way. Rachel wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her voice barely above a whisper. You really think I'm still in love with him? I don't know what to think anymore, I admitted. But this situation is tearing us apart. I need clarity, and I don't think we can get that while living under the same roof. Silence hung in the air between us, thick with unspoken words and raw emotions. Rachel's shoulders slumped as she sank onto the couch, the weight of the conversation pressing down on her. Where would I go? She finally asked, her voice trembling. I don't have anywhere to turn. You can stay with your sister for a while. Just until we can figure things out, I suggested, my voice softening. The kids can visit you there. I want to make this as easy as possible for them. I can't believe this is happening, she said, her face buried in her hands. I thought we were stronger than this. I did too, but sometimes love isn't enough, I said, my heart breaking at the sight of her despair. We've both made mistakes, and I don't want to drag the kids through our mess. This will be hard, but it might be what we need. Do you really think a separation will help? She asked, looking up at me, her eyes red and swollen. I hope so, I replied, feeling the weight of the moment settle around us. But we can't heal while we're constantly fighting or doubting each other. I need time to think, and maybe you do too. Rachel nodded slowly, the acceptance of our harsh reality dawning on her. I guess I understand. But it doesn't make this any easier. No, it doesn't, I said, feeling a wave of sorrow wash over me. But maybe it will give us both the perspective we need. With that, the gravity of our decision settled in. We began to gather Rachel's things, each item a painful reminder of the life we had built together. I watched her pack with trembling hands, a part of me wishing I could rewind time to before the chaos unfolded. Can I at least say goodbye to the kids before I leave? She asked, her voice breaking as she zipped up her bag. Of course, I replied, my heart aching for her. They need to know you'll be okay. When the kids returned home, they rushed to Rachel, excited and unaware of the storm brewing around us. As I watched her kneel to embrace them, I felt the weight of our decision pressing down on me even more. Mommy's going to stay with Aunt Clara for a little while, I told them gently, knowing the confusion in their eyes was mirrored in my own. Why? Lily asked, her brow furrowed in concern. Is everything okay? Everything will be fine, sweetie. Sometimes adults need a little time to figure things out, Rachel replied, her voice thick with emotion. Are you coming back? Max asked, his innocence piercing through the tension. Yes, I'll be back. I love you both very much, Rachel said, tears streaming down her cheeks as she hugged them tightly. As they clung to her, I felt a mix of sorrow and relief. We were stepping into the unknown, and while I hoped this separation would give us clarity, I couldn't shake the fear that we were moving toward an irrevocable end. As Rachel walked out the door, the children watching her leave with confusion and tears, I felt the finality of our decision settle in. I closed the door behind her, the sound echoing in the silence that filled the house. In that moment, I realized that this was just the beginning of a long journey through pain, discovery, and, hopefully, healing. But as I watched the kids play in the living room, their laughter rang hollow in my ears, reminding me of the love that had once held us together and the cracks that had ultimately driven us apart.